Hello, my name is Ashley Bennett, and I am a Sigma architect at Aimpoint Digital. Today, I'm going to walk you through the solution for week 32 of this year's Workout Wednesday for Sigma. This week is a fun and simple challenge analyzing roller coaster data. Let's get started. First, I want to add my underlying data. And this can be found in the Workout Wednesday workspace, 2025, week 32, and the roller coasters data model. Now I want to add a new segmented control that will allow the users to select which color dimension they want to display. And I'm also going to give this a control ID with a prefix because it's best practice to do so, because when you have a ton of controls, then it is very easy to figure out what is what when you're looking at the formula bar. And it just makes your life easier as a developer. And then stat for status. Okay. Now, with our control set the way we want, we can create a new column in our data set that interacts with that control. And doing this as far upstream as possible allows you to only have to make that that calculation once, which is better performing, better cost savings, and just way easier to maintain going forward. I'm going to also make one that tells us which is selected. So color dimension will be the actual value of the column that is selected, and the color name will be the column name. Now, let's create our charts. I'm going to do this by creating a child chart. And the first one I want to do is a scatter. I'm going to add length to my x-axis and height to my y-axis. I'm not going to aggregate those values because I kind of want it to look more like a true scatter plot. And then in the color, I want to add the color dimension. And then in the size, I want to add speed. And then finally, in the tooltip, I want to add the coaster name. And this works because you don't have to do anything to coaster name because the y-axis isn't aggregated. And in the formatting, I want to make some adjustments. I definitely want to show the axis titles on both axes. So it's a little bit more clear what we're displaying. And then on the legend, I want to show that legend header. So you get that. So let's change our seating type. And you'll notice that our data set has a couple of significant outliers on height. So I want to get rid of those, or really just hide them. I'm going to show have a max range for that. So they just show up right at the top and everything's a little bit more together. Great. And now, finally for this chart, I want to update the title to be dynamic. So we're going to do height and length by and start typing roller coasters and color name. Okay. and speed, because we also have speed in there. Now I'm ready to create our bar chart. However, I'm not actually ready to create our bar chart because we want to do a top N with a color. It is advisable to do a intermediary table. So I'm going to call this table something different. We're going to call this top inversions. And then from here, I want to group our table by park and then add a calculation to find the total number of inversions. And then I'm going to add a filter using Shift F. And we're going to change this filter type to a top N. And we're also going to convert it to a page control so the user can deal with that and play with that as they like. And so there we go. We have our top 10 most inversions by park. And now we're ready to create our bar chart. We're going to create a child chart off of that intermediary table. And we will do a horizontal stacked bar chart. And we want everything available. So because I have that collapse, we will select all source columns in the top. On our y-axis, we are going to select park. On our x-axis, we're going to do number of inversions. And then on color, we're going to throw in our color dimension. Under tooltip, we're going to put in the name. However, because we are aggregating, we have to aggregate and create a new column for name. And I'll call this okay. And then I want to, just for ease of viewing, sort that. We're going to call this versions. And then, okay, I like the way that looks right now. Let me make that smaller. Okay, we can still read all of our names. Great. Okay. And I also do like to show those legend headers, just so it's very clear what things are pointing to what. And let's give this a dynamic title as well. So we're going to call this inversions by park and equals roller coasters color name. Maybe. Let's try that again. Roller coasters color name. Perfect. Exactly what I'm looking to see. Now I want to create all of our filters. I'm going to do this most easily by going back to our upmost data set and creating filters on the columns that I want. So I'm going to do name, and then I'll convert them to page controls. Name, material type, seating type, status. Okay. And, a number of inversions. Okay. So let's see. I want to arrange these now into a container. And so I'm going to take our, where it went, our color dimension. I'm going to throw it at the top. And then I want to do park and name, material type, but because there are so few material types, I'm going to use a segmented control and show the clear option of all, not none. And then sort those better. And now let's see, seating type. Let's do status, number of inversions. I also want to throw in our top N here. Swap those. And then I also want to, let's see, then select all of these, do a container. We're going to rename our container as is best practice, because when you have a lot, it's much easier to figure out what's what. And finally, I want to create a button. I'm just gonna make it big. We're gonna fill that, and it's going to be reset filters. Then the action on that button, I want to clear control, reset to the published value, and I want to do the entire container. However, first I have to save as so I can reset it. So we're going to call this, give our workbook a name. Okay. So now our action is set up correctly. We have this changed and maybe something set. That resets everything to the published value. Perfect. Now I want to move everything into their final spots. This container, I'm going to move to a popover, but I'll do that last. Okay. These two charts, I'm going to move to a new page, which I'm going to call our original page data. And this one, coasters. We will hide our data page as is best practice. And that looks great. I'm going to add in a title text. And I like to use medium heading. We're just going to call this roller coasters. Awesome. Now I want to add in a popover. And now that that's been created, I can move my container into the popover. I'm going to give this name and arrange things as we'd like. I'm going to make this a much bigger, so it's much easier to see everything. And then on coasters, I'm going to change this to filters. And I like showing that filter count. And then I also just like it to look like my buttons. Great. Awesome. And then from there, I like to also change my workbook theme. Let's change some settings. We're going to make it dark and just change something to be a little bit more fun. Wasn't that easy? I'll see you next time for more Sigma challenges.